Welcome to Beyond the Game. I'm Mike Lacey, and as you can tell from our setup here, you are now in the Mike and Diana Lacey home. Welcome to our home. It's Christmas time, and we have something special. This is, in fact, a special Christmas edition that we're going to do, and we have a favorite story that we'd like to share. My dear wife, Diana Lynn Larson Lacey, is here with me. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's good to have you here.
This is fun.
You know, we talk a lot about sports on Beyond the Game. And so I want to share one thing about this young lady that a lot of people aren't aware of. First of all, her father is up in the banners of the Marriott Center. He was an All-American basketball player during the NIT period of the BYU basketball team. Mm-hmm. And being an All-American, his name is right below or right above Jimmer Fredette up there. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's pictured in the Hall of Fame. It's kind of fun to visit there.
And a wonderful man, passed away just several years ago, and we miss him.
Yeah.
It's good to think of Dean Larson. But I want to share a story about Diana, and you can tell us a little bit about this. Diana, our children, we raised our children in Farmington, New Mexico. And they, among other sports, football, basketball, baseball, but they ran track. And they learned that from a very good coach and mentor, Diana Lacey. But what we were so impressed with is when we went to the state track meet and you open it up to past records in New Mexico. This young lady still has her name in the record book, and I don't believe it will ever be eclipsed.
Nope, it never can.
Tell us why.
Well,
the
secret is that I dual hold the record in the hurdles, but at the time they were 110 yards. And 2 years after, the sport switched to meters, and so can't break my record.
And what's cool about it is New Mexico still has those records that
in
were
the
kept
archives,
in yards.
the old archives.
No, but in the program for everybody who comes to the state track meet, they have all the past records in yards and in meters.
So that's just a fun side story. But our daughter Sarah ran track for BYU, and her hurdle times were beyond mine.
Yeah, but you know.
So, in meters.
You ran on sandy rock.
Oh, I know. I know. It's different times.
The world has changed.
Yeah.
And also, should we tell the story about how we met?
Sure. Why not?
Well, let me lead off, and then you can finish. There was a young lady who lived in Pineview Apartments, and I saw her one day, and she was a pretty darn good-looking young lady. And this was this was at the swimming pool late in the afternoon on a summer afternoon, and I don't know, it was
June, May.
And anyway, I saw her reading a book. She was sitting there around the pool, and so were some other people.
I was studying for biology.
And she was attentively studying because she did not look up at me. But I jumped in the pool, and I knew that if I swam the butterfly, and I was a swimmer in my younger days, if I swam the butterfly, I would attract her attention. So anyway, I did a lap of the butterfly. There was no one else in the pool. In fact, there was a thunderstorm coming in, so everyone was starting to depart. And when I was done with my lap of the butterfly, I looked up to see how impressed she was. Where were you?
I had no idea you were there.
She took off.
I was gone.
She was gone. I thought I was
It was starting to rain. It was starting to rain.
So to make the long story short, I saw her with her ward on a Monday night going out to play softball. So my friend and I...
Co-ed softball.
A co-ed softball team.
We were going to practice.
But you needed some other players, it looked like.
Of course.
So do you want to tell the rest of the story? Or?
Oh, sure.
I tell the story that I hit a home run, but
well,
you think I only hit a single.
Well, Mike and his roommate, Chris, came into the lobby and invited themselves to come to our practice.
That we did.
And so
we knew you wanted us to be there, right?
Of course. And so we went, we're practicing. Mike is on the opposite team from me. I'm playing second base. And Mike is up to bat, and he hits one out into the outfield. Impressive.
Deep in the outfield.
Oh,
Deep.
Deep, yeah. But not a home run. I don't even think there was a fence. So I'm sure it would have been over the fence. But then he's rounding first, coming to second. The throw comes to me. I catch it, and I am about to tag him out. But lo and behold, he swoops me up, throws me over his shoulder, and runs third and then home. And they call him safe.
It was a home run.
They said home run, he stole second base.
And I stole second.
Yeah, stole second base.
Who's ever hit a home run and stole second at the same time?
I'm protesting with the ball. But anyway, so we tell our friends when they ask how we met, we just say we hit it right off the bat.
And we did.
And so that's our beginnings 43 and a half years ago.
Who's counting?
Who knows?
And we've been very blessed.
With 6 children and right now 15 grandchildren. So we are blessed.
We are very, very
truly blessed.
We want to share a story with our audience because this is the first time I ever heard this. I said, really? What? So interesting. And Diana has, I don't know, not created, but discovered a super cool story that's based on a Christmas theme.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Diana, would you like to start?
Sure. I love Christmas. I just love the story of the birth of Christ. I love enchantment and, the wonder and awe of the birth of Christ. And, there's just so much majesty in that story. And you have a new star.
And mystery, too. I mean,
there's some things that are
virgin
mysterious.
Birth and,
yes.
So many things that are hard to understand.
Right. God comes to earth, made flesh, a new star, shepherds, angels appear, wise men. There's so much to this story.
And a baby born in a
Lowly,
stable,
mm-hmm.
Among all the animals,
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Just by itself.
And it's told all over the world. And at this time, I guess I'll start back when I first kind of came to think about this story. We were traveling in Israel. We were in the city of Jerusalem. Mike and I were. And our good friend who was with us, named Alan Rudd, he posed a question to me one day. And he said, do you think it's possible that Nephi, in 3rd Nephi...
Now tell me, for our audience who may or may not understand who Nephi is, who's Nephi?
Okay. Well, Nephi is found in the Book of Mormon, in Latter-day Saints scripture, and he's found in the chapters of 3rd Nephi, which is during the time of Christ's birth. And so for Latter-day Saints, we have 2 narratives of his birth. We have one in the Bible, and we have one in the Book of Mormon.
Are they significantly different?
Yes, they're different because
in what respect?
One is the perspective of in Jerusalem, and the other is the perspective of how they learned about the birth of Christ from ancient prophets in the Americas, which is where the Book of Mormon setting is, written by prophets from 600 BC to 400 AD. So about 1,000 years of recorded record.
They both witnessed the same birth of Jesus Christ.
They talk about it
in Israel.
It's prophesied. And so Alan poses this question. Do you think Nephi, the prophet in 3rd Nephi, could possibly have been one of the wise men? And I just kind of laughed.
And this is a prophet from the Americas.
From the Americas.
Who would then go to Bethlehem.
Yeah.
And be interesting. Wow.
And so I just looked at him. No. Like, why do you think that? And he said, well, there's this scripture in 3rd Nephi where Nephi, one day gives the records that he's in charge of to his son. So Nephi is son of Helaman and gives them to his son Nephi, and he leaves. He's gone.
Yep.
And most kings, prophets pass the records that they're keeping on to their son prior to their death. They don't just suddenly leave. And he said, so where did Nephi go? And I said, I don't know. I've never, ever thought about it. And so, yeah, if you want to turn to the scriptures in 3rd Nephi to read what
this
it
is
says.
out of the Book of Mormon, 3rd Nephi, chapter 1. And you want me to read just verse 2?
Sure. 3rd Nephi 1, 2.
Verse 2. And these just lead into this story. So we're not going to load you up with scriptures today. But
it's hypothetical.
Just, this is
and
maybe even whimsical, but it's fun to think that, wow, what if?
I love to study the scriptures and find little breadcrumbs. And once I find a little crumb, I see if it leads to something else and something else. You know, nothing prophetic, just how do these scriptures...
This is a what if.
You know.
Yeah.
And so I started there, and you go ahead and read. Yeah, go ahead and read.
All right, 3 Nephi 1, verse 2. And Nephi, the son of Helaman, had departed out of the land of Zarahemla, giving charge unto his son Nephi, who was his eldest son, concerning the plates of brass, and all the records which had been kept, and all those things which had been kept sacred from the departure of Lehi out of Jerusalem.
Perfect. And then actually in the next chapter, 3rd Nephi 2, verse 9, would you read that one too?
Sure. 3rd Nephi 2, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And Nephi, who was the father of Nephi, who had the charge of the records, did not return to the land of Zarahemla, and could nowhere be found in all the land.
Okay, so never before had I thought about, well, why did he leave and where did he go?
Where did he go? Because you never hear of a prophet just taking off and leaving all his records.
Right.
The plates of brass were what would become the Book of Mormon. So these are the records that the prophet is keeping, and he leaves them with his son and takes off.
The gold plates are what the Book of Mormon would become. The brass plates are the Old Testament scriptures. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, so we're reading the scripture, and I pondered that for a long time. Well, then I got looking, well, one very interesting part of Christ's birth is that a new star appears. And we know that. We see the nativity scenes, and we see the star and the angels and the shepherd and the wise men, and we see it all together. And we just kind of assume when we look at that, oh, well, the shepherd saw the star and the shepherd saw the wise men, and it's just this neatly packaged.
We assume that from, our nativity scenes and everything, right?
That this all happened all at once. Well, when you get looking, the Bible doesn't prophesy of a star.
Wait, it does. I found one. You actually showed it to me.
Well, it's not prophesying a new star, but it's very interesting. In Genesis, very beginning of the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 14. Do you want to read that one? Go ahead.
I will. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So
we're told right from the beginning that a star can be for a sign.
And think about it. I mean, how many times in the Old or New Testament do you hear of a star being for a sign?
There's other times, last days, stars falling from the heavens.
Sure.
That's a sign, but the sign of Christ's birth, there's a reference in Numbers that Christ, symbolically, he will be a star and a scepter. So there's that one, but really you can't find a prophecy that says a new star will appear. However, there is a prophecy in the Book of Mormon. And again, to the people of this continent, and the prophecy is given by a prophet named Samuel. And he's known as Samuel the Lamanite because there were two groups of people in the Book of Mormon,
and this is
Nephites and Lamanites.
I'm sorry, this is the only prophecy of the new star that's in any of the scriptures, right?
Right. The only time you find out about a new star in the Bible
Being
is in
foretold.
Matthew,
Right.
after the wise men come
Correct.
and say they followed the new star. And that's when we first
But who knew?
hear about that there was a
Who knew of
star.
the new
Yeah.
star, though?
Yeah, but we assume it was just there when Christ was born with the shepherds. So the shepherds, how are they told that Christ was born?
Oh, an angel.
Angel, yeah. And, appears and so I think we just kind of put the star there somehow, even though it was the angels that come tell the shepherds about the star. So anyway,
Do you want to Helaman 14?
yeah.
Talk about that prophecy of the star?
Let's go there. Who prophesied the new star? Samuel the Lamanite. And he is a prophet on the American continent. And in Helaman chapter 14, verse 5, will you read that?
Sure. And behold, there shall a new star arise, such an one as ye have never beheld. And this also shall be a sign unto you.
Okay. And he prophesies that 5 years before Christ is born.
Wow.
And he's telling these people that in 5 years, a new star will appear, signaling that Christ is come to earth. And so they anxiously await this star, and some become disbelieving.
The people in the new world.
In the new world, it's going on. Maybe it's not. But the
Americas.
very night prophesied, a new star appears.
Right.
And who sees it? Who sees the new star? You want to read that one in, let's see, 3 Nephi 1:21.
3 Nephi 1.
3 Nephi 1:21.
And it came to pass also that a new star did appear according to the word.
So there you have it. It was prophesied by Samuel the Lamanite, appeared 5 years later, and they saw the star. And again, we don't really hear about the star in the Bible, in the New Testament, until in Matthew. Do you want to read the one in Matthew?
Well, yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm just wanting to comment here that when you think of the story that we share with our families and with each other about the birth of Christ, whether it's from Matthew or from Luke, it's always the testimony that the wise men followed the star. We don't know where or why they were following this star.
They saw the star, it appeared, and they followed it to find the Christ child.
And here it is in Matthew 2 at the very first 2 verses. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born, King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him.
So that is kind of the first mention of that a star signified his birth. And there it talks about wise men.
Yes.
Do you know there's another place where it talks about wise men?
Really? Specifically?
In the Book of Mormon, actually. Yeah. And this I remember this caught me off guard one day when I was reading it. I had been looking at different scriptures, or is there anything we can know about the wise men? And there's plenty of stories out there, hypotheses about who the wise men were. Were there 3? Were there more? They came from the east somewhere. And so then when I was reading in Helaman chapter 16, verse 14, why don't you read that one?
I will.
Okay.
And I'm going to add some emphasis here.
Okay.
Verse 14, and angels did appear unto men, wise men, and did declare unto them glad tidings of great joy. Thus in this year the scriptures began to be fulfilled. I mean, but it didn't just say men, it emphasized that it was wise men. And where, why wise men? The only other place is Matthew 2 where it defines them as wise men. I think that's so interesting.
Yeah. And so, again, these little crumbs as I'm following, and the people here saw the star. They were the ones who prophesied. They were the ones who perhaps followed it. And these angels appeared to wise men on this continent.
We had to define it as wise men.
And so I wonder, doesn't it? It seems improbable, maybe, but could it be possible? Could it possibly be that prophets on this continent saw the star and followed it? They came from that country. They came from Jerusalem. Their ancestors 600 years earlier came from Jerusalem, built boats, even earlier, barges. If it's possible for them to get here, is it possible to get back?
Well, even scientifically, we believe that people migrated here, whether on boats of reeds or across the, Asia, Alaska,
Right. There's many people who came.
But they came from that, they went that direction. And why could they not have come back, especially if a prophet is looking for that star? What's he going to do? Sit back and just say, well, that's cool. I saw a star. I'm just going to sit here and think about it, but I'm going to leave everyone.
And I even think, isn't it possible that they possibly came through Asia, Russia, where the 10 tribes were dispersed?
That landmass.
Yeah, and where Christ had prophesied, there's other sheep I have which are not of this fold, And we know that he visited other lands after he was resurrected. And wouldn't it be proper for maybe a prophet from each of the 12 tribes of Israel to be able to witness the actual birth of the Savior, or that actually he came to earth, and to see the Christ child?
Especially if he were foretold.
Especially if
prophets.
He were one who prophesied it and perhaps suffered much because of, contention over it. And so Samuel, the Lamanite, most likely from the tribe of Joseph from Manasseh, and Nephi, most likely from the tribe of Ephraim, from the tribe of Joseph, who were this branch that came over the wall and came to this continent. Would they, be given the opportunity to witness what had been foretold for thousands of years? It's just a hypothetical story that I think enchants me. And so after studying these scriptures, I thought, I wonder what the Bible dictionary says about the wise men. Like, what do we know from our LDS Bible dictionary? And this kind of even more excited me about the possibility of ancient prophets on this continent being called on this errand. And so, do you have the Bible dictionary where it talks about the Magi?
I do.
Okay.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
Okay. Magi, called wise men. Their identification is not made known in the scriptures, but it is certain that they were righteous men sent on an errand to witness the presence of the Son of God on the earth. Their spiritual capacity is evident. They saw the star, knew its meaning, brought gifts to the young child, and were warned of God in a dream to return to their home by a safe route.
So wait, they saw the star and they knew its meaning. Prophets here saw the star and they knew its meaning. Anyway, go ahead.
Their knowledge was precise and accurate. It seems likely they were representatives of a branch of the Lord's people from somewhere east of Palestine.
Okay, a branch. We talk about this in the scriptures, a branch, the branch of Joseph.
That went over the wall.
And east of Palestine, well, the world is round, right? We kind of think of the Americas as west, but if you go east of Palestine and keep going,
you get here.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's the way the Nephites and Lamanites got to the Americas, was that same route, just now reversed.
Perhaps, we know they came.
That's what we think.
And so their exact route, not exactly sure, but they left Jerusalem via boats and landed in the Americas.
Yeah. Okay, representatives of a branch of the Lord's people from somewhere east of Palestine who had come, led by the Spirit, to behold the Son of God, and who returned to their people to bear witness that the King Emmanuel had indeed been born in the flesh. We are not told how many wise men were there, or there were, but tradition usually speaks of 3, because of the 3 gifts of gold, myrrh, and frankincense. If they were serving in the capacity of witnesses, there would of necessity have been 2 or 3.
Isn't that interesting? Witnesses were sent.
Called magi.
Yeah.
Or wise men.
Or wise men. And so there's also actually another Bible dictionary mention about the wise men of the East. And it even gives a little more information about who we think these men were.
Cool.
And do you mind reading that?
I will. Wise men of the East, Matthew 2, 1 through 12, states that wise men, how many is not recorded, guided by a new star, came to Bethlehem to worship Jesus sometime after his birth. Who these men were, we are not told, but it is certain they were not ordinary men, that they were privileged to search out the Son of God and give him gifts, and that they were spiritually sensitive and knowledgeable, suggests that they were actually prophets on a divine errand.
Wait, hold it there.
Oh.
They were actually prophets on a divine errand.
Wow. And Samuel the Lamanite and Nephi were both prophets. Is that correct?
Correct.
The customary identification of them as astrologers is a gross misrepresentation. They evidently were holy men from a land east of Palestine.
So it's just fascinating to me that all these years, this has kind of been right in front of me in the scriptures and us, and never have I had like a paradigm shift. Well, what if?
It is.
What if it could have been?
Yeah.
What if these men traveled for 2 years? We know the wise men were not at the birth. And we know that because when the wise men come, as recorded in Matthew, and they are seeking for the Christ child, they go to Herod, and he asks, he's feeling threatened that a king is coming.
Who this king of the Jews is.
Right.
So he feels threatened.
Right. And after they leave, Herod has all children the age 2 and under killed. So it's assumed that because of what the wise men told Herod when this star appeared and this king of the Jews that would be coming and rising would have been born somewhere, 2 years prior to their arrival. And so that's basically the story. But now when I watch, there's a beautiful video that the LDS Church puts out that
it is beautiful.
It's my favorite one, and it depicts the scenes and scenery from Christ's birth. No words to it. But as you watch it and as you feel this story, when they get to the part where these wise men see the star, they navigate far to follow and come witness the birth of the Christ child, that he has come to earth in the flesh. And not the exact birth, but that he was born and that he indeed exists. And they have this testimony now that he is the Christ child that was prophesied by the star that they witnessed.
The video adds so much to it because you can even, when you see this video, and I want to show it to you, but when you see this video, you can even envision one of them being Samuel the Lamanite.
Or
and
Nephi,
being Nephi.
Yeah. And
it's heart-wrenching because these men come and worship at the feet of a child. And it brings tears to my eyes that it's so beautiful.
That this young 1-2-year-old child.
Yeah.
And imagine the journey and imagine what they suffered to be a part of witnessing from this continent, that all that had been prophesied all those years had come to pass.
we're told that we should liken the scriptures to ourselves, whether we're reading the Bible, the Quran, the Book of Mormon, but all these words that come from God that men and women accept as the word from God, when we liken them to ourselves or our own lives and experiences, it makes them alive. And what we wanted to do in this video is share our idea of a story that could be true, but it brings this Christmas season of the birth of Christ a little bit closer and in a brighter way. What do you think, Diana?
Yes, and whether this hypothesis is correct, what we do know is that Christ was born in Bethlehem of a virgin. He was God made flesh, and what he did for the world as he healed the sick, the hungry, and performed many mighty miracles. And the mightiest miracle was suffering the atonement in Gethsemane and then being crucified on the cross, that all mankind might come again to him. And so this is a story that is known to the Christian world and that we believe in, but it is also known to all other faiths and religions because it's such a powerful story of love made perfect, coming to earth and redeeming all mankind, no matter what race, religion, gender. He came to save all mankind.
So in this Christmas season for all Christians, for the Hanukkah season, or whatever is your season of worship, love, and joy, the example of the life of Jesus Christ and his love for us and his humble love, his kind love toward all is something that for us this season, hopefully, we can hold in our hearts and try to emulate. Merry Christmas.